Ladies and gentlemen, Ralph Smith, former inmate, was jailed for 21 years for a crime he never committed, but it goes even further than that, for a crime that never, ever happened. The people that reported the crime made the whole thing up. And you can see just on the word of some people, you can go to jail. You know darn well it shouldn't be that way, but it is. So he was released and he's receiving $1.3 million, which I don't think is enough for losing 21 years of your life. I mean, they destroyed this man's life for nothing over lies. White Ohio couple claimed their home was robbed. Black man spends 21 years in prison for a crime a judge suspects never even occurred. They said they got evidence that there was no such crime that happened at their home. You know, in my opinion, that couple should go to jail. They should go to jail for what they did. So, an Ohio man spent 21 years in prison for an alleged crime that never happened. He was awarded $1.3 million from the state following his wrongful conviction claim. So his name is Ralph Blaine Smith, 49 years old, always maintained his innocence. When his case was reexamined, prosecutors couldn't support any hard evidence. The claim alleged a home invasion and robbery even happened. Well, to me, if you looked at it and you knew there was possibly no crime committed, why did you go through a trial and put someone in jail anyway? To me, if there were doubts 21 years ago and you still convicted this person, then the people that did this, they're wrong. And in my opinion, a judge should be removed from the bench. A prosecutor should get their law license revoked whenever you do these kind of things. See, right now, they don't have nothing to lose putting innocent black men and women in jail. They have nothing to lose. You get out, and that's it. End of the story, right? But it should not be the end of the story. The people that are responsible for this, they should not be out here practicing any kind of law. That's very negligent and very untrustworthy. I wouldn't trust a judge or a prosecutor that would put innocent people behind bars. And to me, you should not be allowed to practice anymore. I bet you if there was something they would lose, you would see this whole system turn around real fast. But as long as they don't, it's going to be business as usual. Wow. So he's 49 years old, Ralph Blaine Smith. So that means he was 28 when they put him behind bars. Just ripped this man away from his life. There were times I couldn't take another minute of being incarcerated. This is what he's saying. But I had to keep the fight though, because I knew I was innocent, Smith told station WSYX. Smith's life took a terrible turn on February 2nd, 2000, when a home in Pinkerton, Ohio, roughly 30 miles south of Columbus, was allegedly robbed in a home invasion. According to a lawsuit filed by Smith, the residents of the home described the alleged armed robbers, so they said it was black males. How typical, right? Wearing hats or hoods and masks, which concealed their faces below their eyes. This is what the couple claimed, but ultimately, this couple just straight up lied. So the men were asking the residents where the safe was, and they were told it was in the basement. This is according to this husband and wife that lied. And they claimed that they were held at gunpoint and made their way into the basement. The intruders stole 11 to $12,000 in cash, an unspecified number of rare comic books worth over $4,6,500 worth of jewelry and cell phones. After 15 to 20 minutes, the intruders left the home and the family went to nearby relative home and called the police. So, one responding officer, after talking to the couple, he had doubts. So, after listening to them, he had doubts that their story was even true. So, to me, there should never have been an arrest. So, the first officer that responded showed up, listened to this couple, and he had doubts. So, despite the fresh snowfall on the ground, so they said the robbers, so they said it was black men, which means it was more than one. And they said it was snow on the ground at that time when they claimed the home invasion happened. And you should have seen footprints in the snow, and you should have seen vehicle tire tracks because they claim they came in a car. There were no footprints, there were no vehicle tire tracks. They should have just really what they should have done was turn around at that point and arrest this couple for lying. That's what they should have done. But this is what they're saying. The snow was still, a fresh layer of snow, and the snow did not have any kind of imprints in it. This is a shame. So the police report also indicated that the house was largely undisturbed. So when they went in the house, they said nothing was out of place. So there's too many indicators that a crime did not happen there. So the following day, the couple reportedly gave a vague, contradicting description of the two robbers after claiming one robber's mask slipped below his nose during the robbery, also failed to give a satisfactory sketch of the robber's face or describe the face coverings worn by the alleged intruders. Well, just from what I'm hearing in this article, there should never have been an arrest. Only ones that should have been arrested were the couple that were lying. All right, so they're also saying that one of the detectives interviewed the couple and initially listed as a possible suspect of a robbery. Rowe reportedly was shaking while being interviewed by the police. So the police said they suspected this husband was the one that was the robber by the way he was reacting. So he was trembling as he was being interviewed by the police. Wow, this is just deep. So Smith's attorney accused Silver Snail, who was the detective at the time, of failing to follow up an investigation after the interview. So he pretty much just interviewed the homeowner, the man in the couple, and he didn't do any kind of follow up. He just let it go. when they said when he noticed his behavior was very strange during the interview, there should have been a follow up investigation. So people didn't do their jobs. Isn't this so typical, right? Rowe was friends with Smith's former girlfriend, Mary Office, who was implicated Smith to be the culprit in the robbery. So he was named as a culprit, but he had a real alibi at that time, too. And all of it got ignored, and he was placed into prison. So as the investigation continued, Silvernail showed the victim's photo of Smith because the victims admitted they never saw him prior to their grand jury testimony. Well, if you never saw this man, then how can you sit in the court and said he was the one that did it? The victim's eyewitness identification of Smith led to a grand jury indictment of him with 2 counts of aggravated robbery, 2 counts of kidnapping, and 1 count of theft. During Smith's criminal trial in August of 2000, he was the only one tried despite there were alleged 2 intruders invaded the home. Have you ever had any witness tell you that anyone other than the defendant, Smith, committed the crime? No, sir, Silvernail told the prosecutor, Greg Marks. The prosecution's case relied on victims identifying Smith from a photo because no other evidence linked him to the case. So the jury convicted Ralph Smith of these fake charges. You know, I don't understand this system. This system is really horrible. And he was sentenced to 67 years in prison for a crime a couple fabricated in their head. 67 years. And he didn't get out until 21 years later. And just from reading this, he should not have even spent a single hour in prison. This case seems pretty flimsy for somebody to go to jail. Smith said he spent most of his time in prison studying case law to prove his innocence. I fought hard studying case law, reading the law books, just being there for hours and hours, Smith said. He went on to say his desire to prove his innocence is what kept him going. Smith's defense attorney, um, Joseph Landusky, helped the case get a new trial amid growing suspicions of the evidence that was withheld. It was later revealed prosecutors did withhold evidence, most notably the initial narrative written by the officer who expressed skepticism a crime actually occurred. So they had the police report. So this prosecutor had the police report, and the cop even expressed his doubts that a crime even occurred on the police report. And the prosecutor, that's why I'm telling y'all, a lot of these prosecutors and judges are just as bad or even worse than the cop that's out on the street. So the prosecutor made sure that was withheld from Smith's case. This could have easily cleared him. Mm-mm-mm. What he need to do is sue. I know they gave him something, but shoot, sue the hell out of him. Okay, so Officer Gregory Annis stated, among other matters, that despite the fresh snowfall, there were no footprints on the driveway on the front porch of the victim's house, consistent with robber prints that you would normally see. And they claim they came in a car. There were no tire tracks in the driveway or in the street around the house. So the house literally looked completely undisturbed. This is, wow, this is a disgrace. The officer noted also in his report that none of the victims' neighbors saw a car at the time of the alleged robbery or heard anything unusual, and no dogs in the vicinity were barking. So I guess it must have been an invisible car with invisible masked black men that came in the house and did this invisible robbery. Wow. Wow. The officer implied that the victims got their description of Smith from his former girlfriend, who was motivated to implicate him out of a desire of revenge. Well, he had a rotten girlfriend, adding that pinning the alleged crime on Smith further shielded Smith's ex girlfriend and Roe, whom the victims knew personally, who had knowledge of the basement safe. So he had an ex girlfriend screw him over like that. Wow. Mm-mm-mm. All right. So when they went to check out the house, they wrote in the report there was too selective for them. And in the report, they also put in there that nothing in the house was out of place, like you would normally see in a house that is invaded. You would, it would be in disarray. You would have things all out of place and things turned over. That's how it would look. And it didn't look like that at all. They said it looked like nobody ever even came in there. So Smith finally got a new trial in June of 2021, and Judge Richard E. Behrens ruled prosecutors at the time withheld evidence that suggests the crime never occurred, according to the Columbus Dispatch. Withholding such evidence is indicative of the Brady violation, where prosecuting attorneys failed to share evidence with the defense. So on July 2nd, 2021, Smith was finally released from prison on bond. He was later freed from his ankle monitored. He was on an ankle monitor until September 2021. There are no words on how to describe how happy I am, Smith told the Columbus Dispatch then. In December 2022, Smith filed a wrongful imprisonment claim against the state of Ohio courts of claim. The state, Smith and his attorney agreed to a $1.3 million settlement, which they plan to split. He deserves the whole thing. And I don't think that was a big enough amount for what he's been through. How do you replace 21 years of someone's life? How do you even put a value on that? That is crazy. He should have definitely got more than that. So, how can you replace 21 years in prison? You can't. If I offered you $50 million to go to prison now and get out 21 years later, there's no amount of money I can give you that would be good enough, Landusky said. Smith plans to use the settlement money to care for his family. They helped me out a lot when I was incarcerated with visits and phone calls. I'd like to make things a little easier for them, Smith said. Although Smith is free and the settlement money helps right a wrong, his fight for justice is not finished. He has a pending federal lawsuit filed on February 7th against former uh, Pickerington police officer and Detective David Silvernail and former Fairfield County prosecutor Greg Marks. The city of Pickerington in Fairfield County. Good. I'm glad he's going after all the ones that wrongfully put him in jail and had all the evidence that no crime even occurred. So good. I'm glad he didn't let it go and just settled for the 1.3, which he is splitting. And I don't know what the split is because they didn't tell you. We don't know if it's a 70-30 split, they didn't say. But he got this pending lawsuit, and I sure hope he wins and gets a big multi-million dollar settlement that he deserves. This is a horrible story. What a terrible thing to happen to somebody, and it was not deserved. Y'all, please tell me what you think about this story. Please leave your comment and subscribe. Don't forget to hit on the notification bell, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace, family.